Hello, hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? Running Routes podcast in the house. Just wrapped up preseason. Here we are, getting ready to start the season off. Got some interesting things going in today. We're looking at the player accolades, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, our MVP, our rookies, who's the top-notch guys, who's going to make things happen. And it'll be interesting. We just wrapped up preseason. Introduce yourself, boys.
Charlie. Preseason was nice. The most telling thing that stuck out to me about the preseason was probably Pittsburgh Steelers. I was impressed with all the quarterback competition there, which boiled down to Trubisky and Pickett. Both of them performed really good. And then obviously the emergence of George Pickens to an offense that has a lot of weapons. You know, you got Najee Harris returning, you got Deontay Johnson contract settled. He's in camp. And then you got Claypool moving to the slot, which I think is a really good spot for him, taking over Juju's old spot. So Pittsburgh, we know what they're going to bring on the defensive side of things, but the offense looked really nice. And the quarterback position, obviously, it's a big switch. You're moving off from Ben Roethlisberger. But that was what caught my attention most. How about you, Nick?
Charlie, with the anxiousness to get the product out, I got to respect it. It's okay. I'm going to just try to move it forward. Nick here on a new episode of Running Routes. I'm going to pass it to Eddie so he can introduce himself, and then we'll get back around to that.
The loud mouth.
I love it.
Eddie. Hey, damn Eddie stuff. Hey.
All right,
well, I said my spiel, so it's on to you. What you got?
My favorite standout, I'll jump in for the preseason, was Skylar Thompson down in Miami. This man's a 7th-round pick. He was dang near perfect all 3 games. He had a quarterback rating above 100 in all 3 games. I mean, he played the full game against the Bucs, was 20 of 28, 218, had a touchdown, and had a 106 rating. That was his worst rating of the 3 games. You know, week 3 against Philly, 7 of 10, 103 yards with 3 touchdowns. He's a 7th-round pick. I mean, I don't know much about the new coaching system down there, but if you're a Miami fan, that's gotta have high hopes. If he can do that with a 7th-round guy and nothing but backups, going against some good, solid teams that should have good depth, you should be interested in Miami's
And he had
future.
some nice agility. I mean, he looked like an athlete. He's not just a quarterback. I mean, he moved around out there. I seen him a couple games. Yeah, he looked good.
Miami looked good on offense, period.
No, 100%. I agree. I like that throw out there by you, Brady. Another guy I wanted to throw in there was Breece Hall, a guy I've kind of been high up on from the jump, and then preseason took its course, and it kind of just established that thought. You know what I mean? Breece Hall is looking like he fills the spot and fills the hype for the Jets. Considering he's going to have to split touches with Michael Carter, I don't think that takes too much from his rare talent, and I think Breece Hall is going to do good things this year.
I think they're a good 1-2 punch. I agree. I'm with you on that.
I got a lot. I'm just going to blow real quick through everything I got. I'm going to hit the trenches real quick. I love the trenches coming out of Seattle. I mean, these guys looking real good over there, Seattle Seahawks. You got Bo Mafe looking incredible. You know, that team's definitely rock bottom. You're not going to get any lower, but they're looking good. You know, you're hopefully, you're hopeful that Walker, that running back, can come back from that intestinal issue. I think it might have been a hernia or something like that. I don't know, but hopefully he comes back and he's a stud. Moving forward though, I got the New York Giants. I'm wearing all the gear. There's no way I didn't watch every game. Of course, we got Alex Beckman that got cut. That was crazy to me. He got cut, and then the quarterback Webb led all quarterbacks in the entire preseason. He led with passing. It was like 253 yards passing or something like that.
He probably also led the play time in those quarterbacks too.
I mean, he led in touchdowns. I don't think he had the best completion percentage, but he led in yards, touchdowns, completions. Maybe not completions. But I mean, it's like, and them 2 dudes get cut we're still dealing with the things that Gettleman has done a whole entire season later. We're handcuffed to Galladay because you can't cut him. So, that was really, I'm not a fan. Whatever, it is what it is. But so, this is going to be a rough year for the Giants. So if anybody's a Giant fan, just keep patient. Hopefully this regime that's got everything's going, we're moving in the right direction.
Keeping it rolling, but continuing on the preseason trend. I know preseason's about your roster guys, your practice squad members and stuff like that, who's going to hold your team together, come injuries and stuff. Any of the winless teams, do you have any worry about? And I'll name them off here real fast. You got Seattle was 0-3. Eddie had mentioned that their O-line looked pretty good. Tampa was 0-3. Minnesota was 0-3. Washington 0-3. Chargers 0-3. Jacksonville 0-4.
So I want to touch on that first before anyone jumps into it. The Eagles, for instance, everybody knows I'm Bird Gang, Eagles gang all day. For instance, we didn't have such a great preseason. We didn't go winless, but we did get stomped by Miami. We were just talking about preseason is a numerous amount of things that when you look into preseason, it's not all about wins. It's not all about the depth. For a lot of people, you look at the practice squad guys, these guys who are trying to make the team, and that's kind of what it's all about. But at the same time, the Eagles, for instance, took an approach this preseason, and we did not practice heavily as a lot of these other teams. We talked about the Giants and a lot of guys getting injured and guys out for the season before the season even starts. And the Eagles are very, very healthy, and teams like the Bucks, Tom Brady has been absent. I don't think he played a lick of preseason.
The O-line got beat up.
The O-line's a little beat up, and we go back to these 2-a-day practices, these 3-a-day practices, and the practices that they're doing with the joint practices with other teams and such. The Eagles have taken a step back since the last couple of years, and we kind of been doing less, but we're still getting that production. And you know what? It's keeping us healthy, and it also gave us an outlook on practice squad players or on players we're looking to sign or keep on the team or keep on the roster. I think preseason, as far as winless teams, I think it's irrelevant. Some teams maybe not, but as far as the Chargers go, the Bucks go, you said a few other teams, Washington. I don't think it's a huge relevance as far as the regular season goes, but it just kind of tailors to on how people feel about how preseason affects their team. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's that big of a deal. But with that being said, I'll let somebody else come in on that. But that's just kind of how.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, yes and no. I mean, to think that it's I forget. There's I don't even want to say it because I don't know the stats, but they were saying undefeated teams in preseason don't win Super Bowls. They don't win them. I don't want them at all. And not winning, I think the percentage of teams who don't win end up having better seasons because of it.
Well, that goes hand in hand to what I said. I just got done watching a press conference last night before I went to bed. I watched the press conference with the Eagles, and we're very healthy. The Eagles are very, very healthy, and it's because we've only been doing joint practices 2 times a week. Other teams have been doing them 4 times a week. There's people getting hurt. But we're still getting the production that we need. And when I say we, I mean the Eagles. I hate to keep being biased, but that goes back to what you're saying is the teams who are winless and the teams who are undefeated in preseason is kind of irrelevant. It's kind of to see what you need and where you need them and who you need to cut and who we need to keep. You feel me?
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody's trying to get game day action. I mean, that's really what preseason is about. You're trying to get these guys that are rookies, that are coming out of college, that need to see what it's like to be in the pros and evaluate. And, so, I mean,
you also got to look at the fact that no team is ever going to start with the same starters and finish with the same starters. There will always be injuries. Every year, every team, no one's an exception.
No matter what.
So you got to look at these teams and be like, hey, your backups are getting trashed by, terrible, what should be terrible teams.
Game plan.
I heard. What was that preseason game? The Bucks starters. were playing the Raiders, and the Raiders backups were killing the Patriots starters. Look, I said this before. I don't think
refs.
when we were talking about the Patriots and we were talking about them taking a step back, I think this is definitely it. I think this is the year we're going to see them take a step back. They lost a lot of people. I mean, they gained some. It's going to be an interesting year for them, but it's like is that something to hang your hat on because the backups were chipping up the starters? I don't know. I mean, that to me that might be a questioning factor. To have backups.
I think you could see some key indicators as we were talking about in previous shows with the whole Matt Patricia, Joe Judge. Is that working out for them on the offensive play call? And I think for certain teams, winning a couple of those preseason games does create the sort of morale that you need. Some of those lower-ended teams like your Jacksonville Jaguars going on that kind of sucks. Your Atlanta Falcons on the other spectrum winning some of those games kind of brings together a little bit of team bonding. It's always nice to win. You know what I mean?
For the Jets to go undefeated. Well said, Charlie.
So, I mean, but I can't sit there and say somebody's in trouble because they didn't win a preseason game or somebody's looking to just have this year like, whoa, where did this come from? Because they went 3-0. So it's tough, but I mean, I think it's a little bit of everything of what we said, which evaluating, seeing in depth.
Everybody's getting working.
Absolutely. And I like what you said about the Eagles toning back the practices and stuff like that. I'm sure that will be an interesting case study moving forward to see if they can kind of reduce risk while keeping performance level up.
I don't think so.
I like that.
I mean, obviously we haven't seen anything yet, but I'd like to see.
Focus solely on the Eagles. You know what I mean? And that goes for every team. You talk about the
Bucks,
you're
giving the insight that you know about. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It just happens to be the team that you're with. So
it just goes hand in hand with. I didn't even know the teams that Brady listed off was kind of a shock to me. For the Bucks to be one of the winless teams in preseason, it is kind of it goes hand in hand to what you just said.
Yeah, but 90% of these games, the starters didn't even play. They never even played.
Yeah,
right.
Brady, Fournette, those guys, they played one
are
drive.
They getting the work that they need? Absolutely. There's no way the Tampa Bay Buccaneers aren't going to prepare for week 1 of the season.
I mean, it's just how do you rank a game like Brady says? I mean, the guy who starts the game doesn't finish it. So I mean, how do we rate any of these games? I don't think that this is I think it's merely and purely an evaluation. And these people are trying to make the roster. Yeah, I mean, you got guys who, the whole preseason has changed now, and you're like, what do you mean by that? Well, it used to be 4 games.
We've went over
it used to be 4 games.
We've went over this play this many times this offseason. Now we're in preseason. If you can't make this play, you're getting cut.
Not only that, but for the coaching staff too, does this play work? To your point about that type of stuff. Does 100%. this work the way we drew it up? Let's give it a go.
It used to be 4.
Can we make the defender bite? Can we make the defender bite? Can we make the corner look the wrong direction?
I think it's just as much for testing out game plan issues as it is evaluating talent and stuff like 100%. That.
It used to be 4 games. It used to be 4 games, and now because it's 3 games, what you end up having to do is you end up having to do it differently. You have to do it different now. The starters don't come in. You understand? They don't come in now. It's because we're only playing 3 games. The entirety of the system in which it used to be and how the preseason worked is different now. The starters played a little bit towards the end of the preseason, and maybe
little dress rehearsals.
Yeah, you got and then you seen like complete last game barely played at all. You know what I mean? Because now it's different now. They can't do it that way. It's like they just basically start the preseason out not even playing. Like I've seen a lot of teams not play their starting quarterbacks, starting running backs, offensive linemen, whoever it is, whoever is huge to you, they weren't playing.
See, Eddie, that's a great point because preseason games are just one game. We can't take away from what they've been doing all of offseason, all of training camp. They've been doing joint practices. They've been putting in work. They've been playing preseason games in practice. You know what I'm saying? This just wasn't live. It wasn't a real game. You know
Well,
what I'm
you
saying?
got all these battles too, because I mean, I brought up the Pittsburgh situation, but you also got the situation in Tennessee where we want to see as much of Malik Willis as we can, and then you got a situation down in Atlanta. What do we have in Desmond Ridder? You know what I mean? So like, there are key places where it's like we really want to get as much film as we can and work to visually see some of these young players who are untested at this level. Let's see what they can do when they're in game action. And maybe they are playing the second stringers, but you know,
that has
it's
nothing to do
still
with execution.
still giving feedback. Yeah. Execute the plays, go through the read progressions, fill the blocks, pick up, pass off defensive linemen to the next guy, all that stuff. Yeah, all that stuff. So I mean, I don't get at the end of it, I don't get overly concerned about teams not winning, but there are some telling signs I think that you can see, like the Patriots that Eddie brought up, and not looking good on some fronts and stuff like that. I think you can see a little bit of things by the way teams are going, even if it's not the starters.
Their defensive line looks good. I mean, outside of that, I don't know that there's much that they got going on for them right now. I mean, there's
they cut a lot of cornerbacks too.
Brady,
I was making fun of them in our preseason show. Now they're even digging deeper in the well on that.
We got some crazy cuts too, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
if you got them, Eddie, or whoever.
Yeah, I mean, we got
some of these cuts.
I mean, this one here is near and dear to Charlie and my heart. We got Quincy Roche got cut from the 53-man roster. We picked him back up on the practice squad, but I was bitter about that. I mean, he led the team in sacks that 2 years ago, right, when he was a rookie, before Ojulari came. And then, it's like, Ojulari gets there, balls out, gets 8, and then you're like, it's going to be Quincy's, and then Ojulari gets 8,
You got to think about what they're going to carry into week 1. Maybe they got to go more receiver heavy because you can't get a wide receiver on the field to stay there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So maybe they're carrying, and that's why they're just kind of positioning, for week 1 type of deal. I think some teams are doing that too.
Crazy one for me. OJ Howard, that was a crazy one for me. Kenyon Drake getting cut from the Raiders. That was a crazy one, because I think he was
OJ
healthy.
Howard, if you picked up Knox in fantasy, that's a huge win in your book.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
For sure. Fantasy. Yeah, shout out to the league. 12 cases pending.
How about some of the trades that just recently happened? I know Nick wants to chirp up about one for his team.
CJ Gardner was the one that jumped off the page for me. I was like, wow, that's a hell of a trade. You got a couple offensive linemen that the Panthers traded to somebody, but nothing crazy, I think, for a draft pick. It was basically for a snap. Yeah,
I like Chenault to Carolina. I like that.
Carolina, that was incredible.
I'll touch on the CJ Gardner real quick. Try not to get too much into it. The thing about the Eagles, you gotta love it as an Eagles fan. Gotta love it. But at the same time, we're looking at a lot of money. We got 1-2 year. We signed AJ Brown to a 2-year deal. Yeah. We got Bradbury from the Giants. We got CJ now. We do got a lot of young talent with slim contracts, but with all these guys that we're adding to the roster, it looks like we're gun ho. And next year, this year we don't make it. Next year we don't make it. We got a lot of money to put up.
You got some tough choices in the future.
So it kind of makes sense with the Saints did getting rid of him, like Charlie kind of said to me. But at the same time, it's like it was kind of a surprise, I would say, for most people. But
I'd say so.
Love the trade. OJ Howard is a surprise. The what was the other one?
Kenyon Drake getting cut from Vegas.
That's another big one. I mean, a lot of guys getting dropped that we didn't expect this season.
I'll add two to the name was Trey Sermon down in San Fran. He got cut.
I forgot about that. I was just talking about that before.
That's a surprising one to me.
I think Jermichael Hastings is going to get a couple more touches
last year, and you're just like, yeah, we're okay. And I thought he was going to be something. I mean, he did well enough, but they like the.
I agree, Brady.
Out a little bit. Alex Leatherby from the Raiders too, for a former first round pick. We were talking about it too.
Alex Leatherwood.
1 year. That's got to be telling. I mean, he was immediately scooped up by the Bears, who will take anybody that weighs over 310 pounds, I'm sure, and try them at offensive line. But
I say you put him in a guard, maybe. Put him in. Usually when you have tackles that struggle, you can put him on the right side and they'll be good, or just put him at guard. I mean, if he's a tackle, just put him at guard. I mean, if you don't have a good guard.
Up, Brady.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add one more. Was that Tyler Johnson from the Bucks, who he's in the Super Bowl run. He had that game-winning catch. Again, it goes against the Saints that saved them and kept pushing them forward. And then they had, but he just got cut by the Bucks in favor of, I guess, keeping Scotty Miller, and he just got claimed by the Texans. So that'll be interesting for him.
McLeod,
wide receiver depth over there. So
the Eagles caught McLeod, and I think
Scotty was a long-time Buck too.
Another late trade. Charlie just sent me not too long ago that I just found out recently. Kind of got my wish, kind of didn't. All Eagles fans definitely wanted to see something more out of it, but Jalen Reagor traded for a 7th round pick and a conditional pick.
To who?
Minnesota.
Jalen Reagor to Minnesota. Obviously wasn't performing for the Eagles, but watched it like Brady just said. Watch Tyler Johnson go over there and ball out. Watch, and then watch Jalen Reagor go over to Minnesota and ball out. I mean, there's no reason he shouldn't.
That's a crowded backfield. I don't see him getting play unless somebody gets hurt.
Same thing happened with Nelson Aguilar. I know he won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, but he wasn't the best on the Eagles, and then he went over to the Raiders and was like the #1 receiver that year. So I was like, who knows, what these guys can do on a different
Like I said, Minnesota's stacked. They just got a rookie that is just going to blow the top off.
Yeah.
I think Charlie drafted him in fantasy. This guy's going to blow the top off, that guy. I don't even know how to say his name.
Yeah, you got nice depth at wide receiver.
Yeah, they don't need him. They don't need him.
Down. And they got a couple more youngsters that performed well in the preseason.
They got a 7th round pick for a 1st rounder.
Sometimes it takes a change of scenery, I mean, hopefully Tyler Johnson, I liked him, but that's a crowded room too. And if you got to move on from somebody, you got to move on from somebody. And I had high hopes for Reagor when he was drafted by Philly. He was probably overdrafted in the first place, but I still thought he would be a nice contributor there.
And he tried to make me feel better when he got drafted at what he got
drafted. He never really fit in, and there were quarterback issues and actually throwing the ball issues for a couple of years, even when Carson Wentz was there. But definitely not a fan favorite after the drop last year near the end of the game, and it just didn't work out for him. So hopefully, change of scenery maybe gives people another opportunity.
Yeah, I think Reagor, if he gets a chance, he might be able to show up and show out. I think so. But I just don't know how long it's going to take for him to get it on Minnesota. Like I said, that room is packed right now. I mean, there's got to be a significant injury in order for him to get in. Thielen, anybody. Yeah. Somebody's got to go down. Yeah. Somebody's got to go down.
Yeah, for sure.
Keeping the ball rolling, let's look at the veterans now. Talking about the offensive player of the year, the top-notch guys. Who's it going to be? Let's start with the NFC first. Who you guys thinking? You think it's going to be Kupp again? You think it's going to be a quarterback?
We going to stay in order? You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear it, Charlie.
Offensive player of the year, I'm going to hand that trophy to Christian McCaffrey. I think he's going to stay healthy this year. I believe the Panthers are going to be competitive this year, possible division winners, possible sneaking in the playoffs. And if that happens, Christian McCaffrey is going to give me 15 to 16 games, as I talked about on our early show. And he's going to be just as dynamic as he usually is, and that's going to be my choice for offensive player.
Yeah, Tater Tot talked you. You talked Tater Tot, and they taken him. So
yeah, no, I would have took him. I was one step below where I could get him in both of my drafts.
Charlie shocked me with his pick. It's not a shocker. I mean, C-Mac being C-Mac.
I'm going to shock you with my pick.
He just wasn't on my list as far as offensive player of the year goes. It usually goes to that skill position, the wide receiver, the running back. The top guys right now for next year, I mean, undeniably, Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp. But my personal pick, who wasn't even brought into the conversation last year, which was just disrespectful, is Deebo Samuel. And I'm going Deebo Samuel for the 49ers because this guy had 1,000 yards receiving in Game 8 of the regular season. Not to mention that he led the league in yards after catch.
Was a beast. Oh.
He did everything on his own. Cooper Kupp, did his thing, Triple Crown, all that. But a lot of his catches were from his quarterback, 15, 20 yards down the field, making plays, whatever. I'm not taking no credit from Kupp. But I think
Sounds like you are.
Samuel all around is the player to look for, and he's going to do the same thing. And especially, I have high hopes. We all have high hopes for Trey Lance this year. Regardless of the quarterback situation, he's the number one guy out there, and he's the guy to make it happen. I like
Deebo Samuel a lot. I like Deebo Samuel a lot. He's super solid. My issue with Meek, the only reason he was high up on my board too. The only reason I didn't put him there.
Okay, getting a little
in the locker room himself.
Getting a little.
We're losing you, Brady.
Wait for it.
Hold on, Brady. Let's take a second.
Yeah, the jet go over his house.
All right, I think I'm back now. But The reason Deebo Samuel wasn't like my top guy is he created that tension in the locker room himself by saying, "Listen, I'm a wide receiver, not a running back. Let me do my wide receiver. Change the playbook. I don't want to be that guy that does everything. I just want to be a wide receiver." So that's where I think he takes that step notch backwards behind Cooper Kupp. Because Cooper Kupp said, "Hey, I'm the guy. Give me the ball."
So Cooper Kupp's your guy?
I think him being that guy where he, I'm not your running back, I'm your wide receiver. I even though he said that, him being that guy and doing the numbers and the production that he did without being like a number one wide receiver, this guy has done it all himself. You know what I'm saying? And if they say they listen to him, all right, make him the wide receiver, I think his numbers just only improve. You feel me? So, like, if you put this guy in open space and you actually make him the number one receiver, stop playing him like this Swiss Army knife, Deebo Samuel's an easy pick for me. I got him Offensive Player of the Year. Eddie,
what do you think?
I'm going Justin Jefferson. I wanted to potentially go Jamar Chase. And I mean, you can make an argument for both of them because I really like Jamar. I called him being Rookie of the Year last year. I came out and said it. Everybody joked around about the drops in preseason games, and we talked about those games not mattering. Well, there's the proof in the pudding right there, pal. That came right out there. He came out swinging hammers, Chase. But I'm going to go Justin Jefferson this year. I think potentially, this could be maybe a year where they start contending, maybe. I don't know. And, Justin Jefferson's a beast. So I'm going Justin Jefferson.
He's going top 5 in the fantasy draft. So, yeah, there's a lot of love for Justin Jefferson.
That's surprising, gentlemen. No quarterbacks there in the NFC.
I'm going against the grain. I said I wasn't going to make an easy one. It's hard for
me to put the quarterback position in it, Brady, just because when you talk MVP, it's usually quarterback, and then when you go Offensive Player of the Year, it's usually that skill position, that wide receiver or running back. Only 2 quarterbacks have won the Offensive Player of the Year since it's been announced in 1990, and it was Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert. Dak Prescott won Offensive Player of the Year only because Aaron Rodgers won MVP that year. And then Justin Herbert won the Offensive Player of the Year that year only because I believe that was Tom Brady's second MVP. So quarterback-wise, Offensive Player of the Year, it's tough because they usually give that award to the skill position, but it's possible. It's definitely possible.
Keeping the ball rolling, let's look at the AFC side of the ball. I know Nick mentioned Jonathan Taylor as his guy for the AFC. What are you feeling there, Charlie?
I'm going Derek Carr. I'm gonna go quarterback.
Derek Carr.
I'm thinking Raiders. That's my team in the AFC as dark horsey type of situation. You're adding Devontae Adams. I mean, last year top 5 in passing yards at 4,800. I believe he was 400 short of Tom Brady. So right there in the neck of the woods.
Yep.
Only 23 touchdowns. I think you add Devontae Adams as a weapon with Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller. And as good as the run game has looked in the preseason, I'm expecting Derek Carr to take another step. Every year he's been in the league, his passing yards have increased, and I have no reason to think that that's not going to happen. They're going to be in a lot of shootouts in that AFC West, especially playing the NFC West. It's going to be the battle of the Cowboys and Indians out there. So yeah, I think he's going to put up career numbers, getting over 32 touchdown passes. I don't see why he can't set a new standard for himself. I don't think he's going to be MVP caliber, but I think he's good enough to win Offensive Player of the Year.
I like
Okay.
it. Interesting.
That's tough with all the stuff we just said about the offensive line. They had a couple of injuries too. It's going to be interesting to see when it starts. You guys know how I feel about the
Taylor,
trenches.
I elaborate on that.
What'd you say, Brady? I'm sorry.
I said you had mentioned Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if that's your guy or sticking with it. If you want to elaborate on it.
So Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Cup, like I said, 2 different divisions, but I know that those are the top candidates, undeniably. But my guy is different. I'm gonna express it a little bit more just because Charlie picked a QB. The problem being is I have Derek Carr up on my board too, and then when it comes to MVP, I think these QBs come really strict into the talk. And then let's say Derek Carr gets into the talk, right? Say he has a good season and he's in the talk for MVP behind, let's say Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, right? For MVP. We'll get into that later. But once that MVP is decided, I think once it goes to Offensive Player of the Year, it almost gets disregarded. You feel me? Because the 2 or 3
defaulted to a positional.
So, all right, but enough said. I've said it enough times. My AFC guy,
Jamar Chase,
personally, is Jamar Chase. Won Rookie of the Year last year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. There's no reason that he shouldn't be in the fucking talk of Offensive Player of the Year. Joe Burrow, 4,600 yards. Joe Burrow is definitely in the talk. I mean, he's just not – I feel like Joe Burrow's not getting enough credit. He's getting the credit, but he's not getting enough credit for, like, these elite guys. But, like, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert are in the talk for MVP, Tom Brady. I think Burrow's right there.
Well, he was a year 2 guy.
Here I got Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, there's no reason he shouldn't just ball out like he did last year, especially with Burrow throwing the ball.
I agree with you.
All right, I went sloppy with it this time. I'm going. Come on, come the fuck on. I'm going Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I love
very well.
I love the guy. I've been ever since Wisconsin. I've been all over this kid. How do you not watch those? Go back and watch those games against teams that you were like, he just looks incredible, and you hear people.
Matt Ryan
and you hear people talk
from the production,
and you hear people talking about how he was only good because of the offensive line was hog mollies, and everybody gets drafted from Wisconsin, and that's the only reason, and durability issues, and
I don't think he's a one-hit wonder. I think he's legit.
Didn't pave the road though. I mean, Derrick Henry was at 780 yards rushing before he got hurt in 6 games. Derrick Henry was on pace for another 2,000-yard season. Not to take away from what Jonathan Taylor did, but Derrick Henry is back. The king is back.
You're talking about
Jonathan Taylor.
You're talking about less than he was less than 200 yards short of 2,000-yard season. Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
So.
Yes.
Incredible year last year.
So, and I think all that Matt Ryan does is actually help him to be even better. Because listen, Matt Ryan isn't going to be able to go out there and be Matty Ice. That's not what anybody is asking him to do. They're literally just asking him to go out there and manage the game. Don't turn the ball over and make completions. They do that leaps and bounds changes the way you play the Indianapolis Colts. It changes the way you play.
Gives him better balance. Maybe he gets a little less rushing yards, but he's going to score more touchdowns type of situation.
Good. Well said, Charlie, because I agree and disagree at the same time, because it's like you got Derrick Henry's workload is not decreasing or increasing. It's about to stay the same.
Yeah, but the problem is...
And then you got Taylor, whose workload might decrease a little bit.
It's not.
but he's still going to stay consistent.
No,
So
this isn't going to be a passing team.
Jonathan.
This is not going to be a passing team. This is going to be exactly the team that it was last year. He's going to get over 1,000 yards. He's going to either be second or first in rushing, and it's because of how the team's already set up. Do not try and mess with something that isn't broke. This dude's going to come in and he's going to manage the game. That's what he's going to do. That's it. We're not.
He's a closer just like Henry, because we saw him just break off long run after long run when they just needed to ice the game. And you that's what you do. And the Colts should be good this year. So have plenty of opportunities. He should touch the ball plenty.
Exactly. Yeah, there's.
So
I think if anything, he gets more yards this year.
Yeah. Undeniable. Ready?
Because now you're respecting the pass. You're going to respect Matt Ryan because he'll make you.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Good arguments. I'm going to argue with Charlie and Gush go on the other side of the AFC West there, and I'm going Justin Herbert. I think that offense is well-rounded. He's got multiple players and multiple weapons to choose from. He's already a 5K passer, and all he has to do is just play a little smarter, and the team looks a little bit better and makes the playoffs, and he's now an Offensive Player of the Year candidate and no longer not an
incredible offensive lineman they drafted.
The conversation for me, Brady, is because he's in the MVP conversation for me.
There you go.
They drafted
better offensive line than Derek Carr too, as Eddie highlighted. So yeah,
they drafted an offensive line to help the Chargers out, get even better up front in the trenches.
Love it.
I definitely see that happen.
Love it.
Another team that's in that AFC that's going to be in shootouts.
Nothing but shootouts. Yeah, nothing but shootouts.
I like that out of all the quarterbacks, though, because when you talk about they normally drift to the winning guy. You know what I'm saying? Like Aaron Donald won Defensive Player of the Year last year because he won when TJ Watt had 22.5 sacks. You know what I'm saying? So I like that. If there's any quarterback to win Offensive Player of the Year, I think Justin Herbert's a good option.
I like it. I can respect